motion.
Question, is the amendment be agreed to? Ms Lauder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank Ms Lee for bringing this motion today. Maintenance and the amenity, the look and the feel of our local shopping centres is something that most residents find quite important. Our local shopping centres are often located with other amenities around them, and they become a community hub. They may be near schools, they may have playgrounds nearby, they may be near clubs, community gardens, a whole lot of different things in the vicinity. But whether they're standalone, such as Theodore shops, for example, which is a small supermarket and not too much else around it, or whether they're one of the big shopping centres or group centres, they are important to the members of the community. In the case of Theodore, many people drop by on their way home from work, maybe to get a beer or, probably not meant to mention cigarettes, but pop in and buy milk on their way home from work. So people do expect that the maintenance keeps up to a generally acceptable standard. And I would like to say at this point that in many instances I do write to the Minister and I often get a very favourable result, and I'd like to commend the work of TCCS that they do, and I have passed on my thanks to the Minister at various times. And when constituents have raised something with me and I then raise it with the Minister and the constituent expresses their appreciation, I pass that on to the Minister, and I'm sure she passes that on to the Directorate. It is noticed and it is appreciated. That doesn't mean that there isn't more that we can do. And members of our community often have suggestions themselves. In fact, I think about a month ago, in perhaps early July, I happened to hear some part of Chief Minister talkback on the radio, and there were some business owners from Endeavour House in Manuka who were talking about how they wanted to sort of plant out on their nature strip, and they wanted to work with the government to do that. So I think the Minister alluded to the fact that it's not only up to the government to do these things, there are community participation elements as well. And another important part of that is about rubbish and litter, because that is a community responsibility. We do expect that there are sufficient bins around, and whether that includes recycling bins as well as general rubbish bins, waste that goes to the landfill, there must be enough bins around. And I note that there are 1,130 bins around Canberra which are emptied up to 5 times a week. In some places, for example, where there's lots of food places, that may need to be more frequent. And in fact, just yesterday I got a letter from the Minister in response to a constituent issue about litter around Ricardo Street in Waniassa, which is sort of near the Gartside Street restaurant precinct, which talked about a constituent had been concerned about the amount of littering, and I've got a letter back from the Minister yesterday. So there are concerns that people raise. Littering and the amount of bins, about gardens and maintenance of footpaths, etc., street sweeping in those areas, and that could include or incorporate rubbish as well. Parking is another thing that's often raised with us, and in fact I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity at Gartside Street recently. There's been some nice work done. It looks so much better. There used to be bare earth where the grass once was. People used to park on the footpath, and that's been improved a lot. But it hasn't improved the parking situation in the restaurant precinct around Gartside Street. And I've lost track of the number of times I've had constituents talk to me about the fact that they drive there, can't get a car park, and they go somewhere else. So it has a business impact on those local businesses. And some of them, of course, are small businesses. We also often hear about graffiti, and in some cases it's a government responsibility depending on the location. In other cases it is up to the owners or managers of the shops. And I note that there are, of course, legal street art and graffiti sites, although I was a little surprised on the Minister's map that I've just been looking at. It talks about legal graffiti sites, but it points to a big concrete overpass over a street, which I wondered was a bit of a safety issue, encouraging people to climb up and paint legal graffiti onto a concrete overpass. But I'm sure it's just kind of artistic licence rather than actually encouraging that to take place. Playgrounds nearby. Some places, such as Waniasa shops, have a playground nearby, and it has a fence nearby which assists to keep children away from the car park. And of course, Waniasa shops has had a bit of a resurgence recently. So it's not only about the government services, maintenance services. A couple of new tenants in the shopping centre can make an enormous difference to a shopping centre. And I think both Coles moving in, but also the markets at Waniasa has made a big difference to that shopping centre there. And of course, you've got other great businesses such as the Capital Chemist there in Waniasa. But playgrounds is something that's often raised. In fact, the Corwell shops have often asked for an improvement in the playground there. It's a very paltry-looking playground, and it could do with some improvement, which would make it an even better destination for families when they go to do their shopping. And back to the issue of graffiti, I'd also like to say that, I do like the addition in some cases of murals on some of the walls, and the Erindale shops is another example of that. Along the bus stop side of Erindale, there's a lovely mural there now which has improved that area as well. But lighting is an issue I've talked about frequently in this place. Just recently, there was an issue at the side of Erindale where the PCYC is. I'm never sure which people think of the back and the front. I think the area where the PCYC is the back, but some people call that the front. But on that side, there was a big light out for a few months, which has recently been fixed. But I note now out the other side of Erindale, the McBride Crescent side of Erindale, there's another light out in the car park that I only noticed just this week. So these are the types of basic local services that people expect to be maintained for their local shops. But there is a community component to it. There's